No one in the courtroom expected what happened next. The moment the defendant walked in, chin raised, sunglasses on indoors, confidence bordering on arrogance, an uneasy ripple went through the room. And yet, beneath her defiant exterior, something fragile flickered in her eyes. Judge Frank Caprio sensed it instantly. He had seen thousands of cases, but this one, carried a storm beneath its surface. A storm that was about to break, because this defendant wasn't just any young woman facing a simple traffic violation. She was the mayor's niece. And an explosive TikTok rant she posted the night before, mocking the court, mocking the city, mocking Judge Caprio himself, was about to turn the courtroom into a simmering battleground of pride, truth, and unexpected vulnerability. No one knew the whole story yet, but everyone was about to find out. The clerk announced her name as the courtroom settled. Case number 22 to 8491, Sophia Marino, charged with reckless driving, failure to yield, and disorderly conduct. A murmur spread through the audience. The last charge, disorderly conduct, was unusual for a traffic docket, but those who had seen the viral TikTok already knew why. Sophia had filmed herself immediately after being pulled over, ranting about how the police were overreacting and how the court is a joke run by old men who want attention. It had already racked up over 800,000 views overnight. Now she stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight, but breathing fast, like she wasn't as unshakable as she pretended. Judge Caprio studied her quietly. The courtroom lights reflected slightly off the glossy parquet floor, and a winter chill seeped through the high windows. But it wasn't the cold that set the tension. It was the unspoken question. Would the judge let her off because of her political connections, or would he hold her accountable? Something in her posture said she expected the former. Something in her trembling fingers said she feared the latter. Judge Frank Caprio folded his hands gently over the bench. His expression was calm, almost grandfatherly, but with a sharpness beneath it, like someone who sees far more than he lets on. He took a breath, steady and thoughtful. This young woman is hurting, he thought. That's always the most dangerous mask, because it usually shields something broken. He glanced at the file in front of him, then looked back at Sophia. "Good morning, Miss Marino," he said warmly, as if there wasn't a viral video insulting him circulating online. "How are you today?" Her eyebrow twitched. "Fine." Caprio nodded slowly. "I'm glad to hear that." His tone was gentle, but the courtroom felt the underlying tension like a wire pulled tight. Frank Caprio believed deeply that justice wasn't about punishment. It was about understanding. But he also believed in accountability, especially when a person hurt others or themselves without realizing the consequences. He leaned back slightly. "We'll go through the charges in a moment," he said. "But before we begin, I want you to know something. I don't hold grudges. I don't take things personally. My only job is to seek the truth and to treat every person who stands before me with dignity." Her arms loosened just a little, just enough for him to see she needed that assurance more than she expected. But Caprio also saw something else, something he had learned to recognize over decades. A wounded pride hiding a wounded heart, and there was a reason for it. Sophia Marino, at 21, was known around the city as the mayor's wild niece. Her uncle, the mayor, had practically raised her after her father died in a construction accident when she was 12. Her mother, unable to cope with the sudden loss, spiraled into depression, leaving Sophia emotionally adrift. By 16, she'd grown a tough exterior, posting bold, flashy videos online, hiding the fact that she'd barely passed high school, that she'd struggled with anxiety, and that she often felt like she lived in her uncle's political shadow. She'd recently dropped out of college. She'd recently broken up with a long-term boyfriend. She'd recently been kicked out of her mother's apartment after a fight. And last week, her mother was hospitalized again for severe depression. It was all too much, too fast, and nowhere to put the pain except online. The TikTok rant, the one calling the court a joke, calling the police clowns, hadn't been born from entitlement alone. It had been born from desperation. But nobody in the courtroom knew that yet. Not until she spoke. Judge Caprio cleared his throat softly. "Miss Marino," he began. You were stopped for reckless driving at 11:47 p.m. on Elmwood Avenue. The officers reported you were weaving between lanes at high speed. Do you wish to contest this charge? Sophia shifted. Her voice cracked slightly. No. I mean no, Your Honor. I don't contest it. Her answer surprised some spectators. They expected attitude, defiance, influence. Instead, she sounded worn. Caprio nodded. And regarding the second charge, failure to yield at a pedestrian crosswalk, she swallowed. I didn't see them. I wasn't paying attention. That admission hung in the air. Thank you for your honesty, the judge said softly. Then he gently turned a page. The third charge, disorderly conduct. This stems from a video posted to social media. He glanced up. A video that has been seen quite widely. Sophia's face flushed a deep red. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Yeah, I know. Caprio's fingers tapped lightly, barely a sound, but the courtroom heard the weight behind it. Miss Marino, I'd like to play that video in this courtroom, he said quietly. Do you object? Gasps. Even Sophia's mouth fell slightly open. You want to play it? Here? Yes, Caprio said gently. I want us to look at the truth together. A long pause. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Caprio motioned to the clerk. The screen flickered to life. Her own face appeared angry, tired, mascara smudged, voice shaking with frustration. This city is ridiculous. The video Sophia had posted began. This court is a joke. That judge, what's his name? Caprio? Yeah, him. He just wants to go viral. These cops are wasting my time. Everybody here is a clown. Sophia squeezed her eyes shut in the courtroom as her own voice echoed around her. People stared, some in judgment, some in disbelief, some with sympathy. Caprio, meanwhile, watched her, not the video. And in that moment, he saw something that most people missed. Regret. Deep, bone-heavy regret. He paused the video. Miss Marino, he asked softly, is that how you truly feel? Judge Caprio's question hung in the still air of the courtroom, like a weight placed gently but deliberately on Sophia's shoulders. Her lips parted, but no words came out at first. She looked down at the floor tiles, the pattern suddenly fascinating, as if the truth lay somewhere between those cold ceramic lines. No, she finally whispered. That's not how I really feel. Caprio nodded slowly, folding his hands again. Then who were you speaking to? He asked gently. Sophia blinked. What? The judge leaned forward just slightly. When you made that video, who were you talking to? The world? The court? The officers? Or were you talking to yourself? A hush fell. Even the clerk stopped typing. Sophia's throat tightened. She tried swallowing, but her voice remained caught somewhere between shame and emotion. I don't know. Caprio didn't push. He simply waited. And that silence, calm, patient, did more to unravel her defenses than any reprimand could have. She exhaled shakily. I was mad, okay? I was tired. I had a terrible week. I wasn't thinking. Caprio's eyes softened. We all have terrible weeks, Miss Marino. But not all of us broadcast our pain to hundreds of thousands of strangers. Her shoulders sagged. That was the first time anyone framed it that way. Not arrogance, not entitlement, pain. Sophia bit her lip. I know it was wrong, and embarrassing, and stupid, Caprio gently corrected. It was human. Her eyes lifted to him with surprise. Miss Marino, Judge Caprio continued in a quiet tone, you appear in this video angry, yes, furious, even. But I also see someone hurt, someone who feels unheard, someone who maybe felt, in that moment, that the world was against her. Sophia blinked rapidly. Her jaw trembled. She hadn't expected compassion, certainly not here. Do you know what really concerned me? Caprio asked. She shook her head. He tapped the paused frame of the video, the image of her face mid-rant, eyes red and swollen. The look in your eyes. You weren't angry at the court. You were angry at something deeper. Her facade cracked. She spoke suddenly, voice trembling. Everything is just falling apart. Caprio didn't move. His stillness was an invitation. Sophia put both hands on the defendant's podium as if holding on to something solid, something that wouldn't collapse under her. "My mom's in the hospital again," she said in a shaky rush. "She's not doing well. My uncle's too busy with his campaign to help. My boyfriend left. I dropped out of school, and I've been staying on a friend's couch because I don't really have anywhere else to go." A stunned quiet swept through the room. Her earlier arrogance now looked like armor-thin, cracked armor holding back a tidal wave she hadn't known how to express. She wiped her eyes quickly. "I know that doesn't excuse anything. I know I screwed up. I know I was reckless and rude. And," her voice broke, "I just didn't know where to put all of it." Caprio felt a familiar ache in his chest, the ache of witnessing someone's breaking point. "She's not dangerous," he thought. "She's drowning." Even the audience, some of whom came expecting drama, now watched her with softened expressions. The twist, Caprio looked down at the report again. "Miss Marino," he said softly. The officer noted something else that night. Sophia looked up, confused. "He wrote that when he approached your car, you were crying." Her eyes widened. She hadn't known he wrote that. "He said you were shaking. That you told him, repeatedly, 'I can't do anything right.'" Sophia covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook as she tried not to cry again. Caprio paused, letting the truth settle gently over the room. "TikTok didn't show that part, did it?" She shook her head. "No, no," he repeated kindly. "Because the world rarely sees the part of us that's hurting. Only the part that lashes out." A tear slipped down her chin, and for the first time since she walked in, she wasn't fighting it. "This young woman reminds me of every person who's ever walked into this courtroom wearing their worst mistake, as if it defined them," Caprio thought, watching her with quiet empathy. He had seen it so many times. People judged by their outbursts, not the wounds underneath. People punished for the symptom, not the cause. He reflected deeply. We live in an age where pain becomes performance, where a cry for help becomes content, where a moment of weakness becomes viral, and the young suffer under the illusion that they must always appear strong, witty, untouchable. He glanced at Sophia, but she wasn't untouchable. Not today. He spoke with the gentleness of someone who understood life's storms intimately. "Miss Marino," he said, "you're not the first person to make a mistake on a bad night. You won't be the last. But the measure of who you are isn't in this video. It's in what you do after the video." She lifted her eyes. "Are you willing," he asked carefully, "to take responsibility not just for the violation but for the pain behind it?" The courtroom leaned in. Sophia stared at him, breathing slowly. "Yes, I'm willing." Her voice cracked, but there was sincerity raw, vulnerable sincerity. Caprio gave a small nod. Caprio surprised the courtroom when he motioned to the clerk again. "Play it from the beginning," he said. A startled whisper spread. Sophia's eyes went wide. "Wait again?" "Yes," he said kindly. "But this time, I want you to look at yourself. Not as a judge would. Not as the public would. I want you to look as if you were watching someone you care about. Someone you worry for." The video began again. Her angry words echoed through the chamber. But this time, something shifted. She wasn't watching an arrogant girl. She was watching a lost one. Her own anger looked less like spite, and more like exhaustion. More like a young woman cracking under pressure. More like a daughter afraid she was losing her mother. More like a person collapsing from carrying too much alone. "Halfway through," Sophia whispered, "I look miserable." Caprio gently nodded. "You do. And scared," she added softly. "Yes," Caprio said. "Very scared." Another tear rolled down her cheek. "I don't want to be this person." The judge's voice lowered. "Then, you've already taken the first step. You recognized yourself. And your pain." He paused the video and folded his hands again. The courtroom was silent in anticipation, waiting, breath held, for the judge's ruling. Caprio leaned forward. "This court isn't a joke. Miss Marino," he said softly. "But It is a place of understanding, a place where mistakes can become turning points. Sophia nodded, eyes red but focused. Before I give my decision, Caprio continued, I want to ask you, what do you think is fair? Not what your uncle would say. Not what the internet would say. What do you believe is the right consequence for your actions? She froze. No one had ever asked her that. Her answer would decide everything. Sophia's fingers curled around the podium edge. She stared down, breathing unevenly. It wasn't just a legal question, it was a moral one. A personal one. One she'd never been asked before. I think, she began, slowly, struggling to find her voice. I think I should be held accountable. I was reckless. I could have hurt someone. Caprio nodded, encouraging but silent. And the video? She exhaled shakily. The video was cruel. It was disrespectful. And I lied to myself about why I made it. I wasn't trying to be tough. I was just falling apart. Her voice cracked in half, and I guess I'd want to do something that helps me fix myself, not just get punished. A whisper rippled through the courtroom. Caprio's eyes softened, deeply impressed. That, he said gently, is a very honest answer. Sophia wiped her eyes again, embarrassed but relieved. I'm tired of feeling like everything is crumbling. I don't want to be that person on the screen anymore. I want to feel like I'm not sinking. Caprio looked at her for a long moment, the kindness in his expression deep as a well. Judge Caprio opened the violation file, turning one page carefully, as if weighing the entire weight of her life with each movement. Miss Marino, he said slowly, before I make my decision, I want to share something with you. She lifted her head, surprised. He continued, voice low and thoughtful. When I was a young man, I watched my own father struggle after losing his job. He was proud, hard-working, but life had cornered him. And sometimes, when people feel cornered, they lash out at the very things trying to help them. The courtroom fell into a reverent quiet. My father taught me something valuable, Caprio said. He said, don't judge a person by their worst day. Judge them by how they rise after it. Sophia's breath shuddered. And you, Miss Marino, he added gently, are standing here on the morning after a very bad day. Her eyes glossed. Caprio's tone deepened, steady, wise. I don't want this video to define you. I want this moment too. Judge Caprio straightened slightly. The courtroom braced. Here is my ruling, he said. A single beat of silence. On the charge of reckless driving, I am imposing a fine of $150. This is not merely punitive, but a reminder that operating a vehicle under emotional distress can have grave consequences. Sophia nodded, accepting. Caprio continued, on the charge of failure to yield, I'm suspending the fine. The pedestrian was unharmed, and you have been forthcoming. A murmur of relief moved through the spectators. But the real tension everyone knew was the viral video. Caprio's gaze landed on her with gentle gravity. On the charge of disorderly conduct, rather than issue a financial penalty, I am ordering something else. Sophia's heart hammered painfully. Oh, okay. Caprio spoke clearly. You will record a second video. A hush, not a punishment, not exactly. A video, he continued, in which you speak honestly. Not to your followers, not to your critics, but to the people who see your first video and misunderstand who you really are. Sophia blinked, startled. You want me to explain myself? I want you to heal, Caprio corrected. And healing begins with truth. He leaned slightly forward. No jokes, no filters, no sarcasm, just you, the real you, the version of you I saw today. Her eyes stung again. And in that video, he added, I want you to talk about pressure, about pain, about what it feels like to pretend for the world. Because I assure you, many young people out there feel the same, and they need to see someone be brave enough to admit it. Sophia swallowed hard. I can do that. Caprio nodded. Good. When you do, Your disorderly conduct charge will be dismissed. The courtroom buzzed, soft surprise, soft admiration. Caprio wasn't just punishing. He was guiding, offering a bridge back to dignity. Sophia suddenly looked 10 years younger. Not weak, not arrogant, just human. Your Honor, she said quietly. Yes, Miss Marino, thank you. It wasn't a polite thank you. It wasn't a forced one. It was raw gratitude spilling through the cracks of someone who hadn't been shown gentleness in a long time. Caprio offered a small, warm smile. You're welcome. But then, he added, a bit firmer, this compassion I'm giving you is not because of your uncle, or your name, or your circumstances. She nodded quickly. I know. It's because I believe, he continued, that you want to change. And you deserve the chance. Her lips trembled. I really do. The courtroom watched silently as Sophia lowered her head, shoulders finally easing. For the first time since she walked in, she wasn't bracing against the world. She was accepting help. And in Caprio's eyes, that was the true moment justice was served. Miss Marino, he said gently, you have a difficult road ahead of you, with your mother's health, with your own life. But I want you to remember something. She looked up. Strength, Caprio said softly, isn't pretending you're fine. It's admitting when you're not. Her tears fell freely now. Go take care of yourself, Caprio said. And take care of your mother. And the next time you feel like the world is closing in, talk to someone. Don't shout into the void. She nodded, jaw trembling. Yes, Your Honor. And one more thing, he added, lifting a finger playfully, bringing a gentle smile to the room. Please drive safely. We need you. In one piece. A small, wet laugh escaped her. I will. I promise. As Sophia exited the courtroom, she didn't walk with the cocky strut from her tick-tock. She walked slower, softer, lighter, like someone carrying a new understanding of themselves. She passed by spectators, who looked at her not with judgment, but with empathy. Some even nodded at her silent encouragement from strangers who recognized her journey. Back at the bench, Judge Caprio watched her go with a thoughtful expression. He knew her battle wasn't over, but he also knew she'd taken a step few people ever do. She confronted her own reflection. He leaned back, reflecting quietly. Sometimes the hardest truths are revealed not by punishment, but by compassion. And sometimes, the greatest justice is simply giving someone the space to become better. The clerk began setting up the next case, but for a moment, the room remained suspended between stories, still holding the emotional gravity of what had just happened. Caprio's gavel tapped softly once. Next case, he said, but the message of the moment lingered in the air long after. We all have bad days, we all break, but what defines us is how we rise.